Alright, so this video is going to be about BAT files. Bum, bum, bum. No. So, BAT files, at the simplest level, is just a list of command prompt commands that have been typed into a file whose extension is .bat or .cmd. I traditionally always go with .bat. That's just what I was taught. I don't really know if there's a big difference between the two, but I always was taught .bat. Alright, and what Windows is going to do, so if I just type in this case, let me go ahead and clear my screen. Alright, so we talked about that N when I looked at that N command in the last video. So I have a BAT file that says, it's called N for new. Alright, and I can say N test, I don't know if I'm on a number, so 4.bat. So N is going to open up a notepad with a new file, and we're going to call it test4.bat. When I hit enter, my computer yells at me, says, do you want to create a new file? And I would say yes, and it would create a new file in the document, in the folder, d:\scripts, because that's what I programmed it to do. All right, and as long as your BAT file is located in a folder that you have mounted, or not mounted, mapped with the environment variables that we talked about in the last video, you don't have to type anything else out. If you haven't mounted it, mounted it, whatever you want to call it, you have to be in that folder, or you have to specify where that file is located. So if I had any BAT files in my documents folder, I could type those out and it would run those just fine. But if I had them in my downloads or something else, or my desktop, it won't find those unless I very specifically say c:/users/gregbat/desktop/file name. All right, so something very important. All right, now BAT files are going to be great for a simple sequence of steps. All right. And the real goal here is automating things to make your life easier. All right. If you're not looking for something that has a lot of decision making, those types of things involved, a BAT file is great. All right. Now, if we go ahead and open up my scripts folder here, come on, there we go. All right. So you can see in my scripts folder, I have a folder called nircmd. That is basically some more command, adds more. It's adding some more command line utilities that you can do. So useful tasks, and I really like this because it has things like turning your monitor off. I have a button on my keyboard that I can press that will instantly basically put my monitors to sleep instead of me having to wait for my computer to do it. This is more important when I left my computer on all the time. Now I don't actually use it. I put my computer to sleep, so it's not as important, but that button still becomes useful. But this allows you to it adds a whole bunch of more command line options, basically. So we can set displays, we can do volume related stuff, we could enable the screensaver, take screenshots, modify register files, whatever. But really a useful tool that I found at some point. But here you can see the two files that I have. So there's that n.bat. I also have a backup.bat file here. And if we go ahead and edit this, you will see it's a single command. Now there's nothing saying this couldn't have multiple commands. We could do this multiple times with different folders. So right now all I'm doing is xcopy, so copying the contents of a folder from d:\scripts. So this folder to C users Gregbat's documents script. So just picked a location to go to. This probably should be off your computer or maybe an external hard drive or something like that if you're chilling doing a backup. And then I have a whole bunch of arguments here. You'll have to go look up what these arguments mean. I don't remember what they are off the top of my head. I just went through the list. You know what? Let's go ahead and take a quick little look. So xcopy // ? So we're looking for /DE. So D is copy files changed on a specific date. So if they've been updated. E is there we go. Copies directories and subdirectories, including empty ones. Okay. C continues copying even if an error occurs. Don't want to stop backing up if an error pops up. No, I want you to keep working. I, if it doesn't exist and more files, it's assuming it is a directory. And Y is basically don't make me ask it. Don't just copy it. Don't ask me anything. Just do it. And I want again, don't want to go. Do you want to copy this? It already exists. No, I just want you to do it. All right. If I go ahead and change this, I'll save it. And we can, I just added an enter, nothing big there. But anyway, I can now just do backup and I hit enter and you'll see that it ran, this was the command that it ran from my local directory. It's saying we created this BAT file, one file was copied correctly, and that was the one that changed. That's why it's listed here. If I run that exact same file again, you'll see it says 0 files copied, and it doesn't list that. So I can go through and I can change things, by, again, just edit this. Let me go ahead and delete that extra space. So now it has a newer file date, and if I run that command again, it will copy just that one file it is updated. So it's not going to copy everything over, because there's no point to copy everything every time unless you're really worried about data corruption over transfer or something like that. But anyway, BAT files are great for simple tasks like that. And as I said, I've used them for setting IP addresses before. So if I plug into if I plug into a switch, I want this IP address. If I'm hardwired to something else, I want a different one. Instead of having to navigate through control panel to get to network settings, to get to the adapter configuration and setting a static IP address, I just had one BAT file that I could just run, and boom, IP address was changed. And then at the end of class, I had students run a different BAT file, which put it back to automatic. So very simple little setup to do. I've also used it in the past for backing up a user-generated folder to a thaw space on computers that are frozen, so students could automatically copy their data from the program they were using, so they didn't have to start from scratch every time they got onto that computer. They could create one file, click a button, and it automatically would export that to the thaw space and save it based on their username, and next class when they came back, they ran the get file button, and it brought all that data back. Basically the same idea as Xcopy here, but using the thaw space as its storage medium. So great options here for backing up data. Just doing mundane tasks, things you don't like doing very often. If you religiously empty your recycling bin and clear old Internet Explorer files and make sure you have 0 extra crap on your computer, BAT file would be a great thing just to say every day at 3 a.m. or at log on or log off, those types of things. So we can do more than just time set things. We can do it all based off specific events sometimes. Now, if you want more than just simple sequence of steps, Windows has created the Windows Script Host, or WSH. And this can massage, digest, manipulate text files and data, view and change Windows settings, and more. All right. So there are options like that. There's also, and this has built-in Windows 10 has built-in support for VBScript, which is Visual Basic for Applications, just like VBA for Word and Excel. So if you have a macro-enabled Word or Excel file, it's using that exact same language. So if you can write those, you can write these BAT files, or the Windows Script Host files. You also have JScript, which is close to JavaScript, basically. And this was often used for websites, so a lot of people have that background knowledge as well. Now, this does take us into the wonderful world of PowerShell. So we've talked about command prompt, this is kind of the older one. PowerShell, on the other option, doesn't like that. All right, anyway, PowerShell is the newer command line. I was curious if that was going to work right off the bat, and it looks like, meh, it does not. All right. And again, this is what I've kind of been talking about. PowerShell is the newer command line. It does not like BAT files. All right, and if you notice these errors that it's popping up, it says object not found, backup string, command found, those types of things. That's because PowerShell is an object-based programming, or object-based command shell, basically. It's the newer version, newer scripting and management tool. All right, and this was debuted with Windows 7, so it's been around for quite a while now. This is a full-scale object-oriented programming language. All right, if you don't know what that means and you really want to get into PowerShell, well, go look it up and start getting into that. I'm here to teach you things, but I am not the best one to be teaching you about programming is what it comes down to. This does have access to Microsoft's .NET programming platforming, which means that the PowerShell scripts can perform complex computations and communicate with other computers and networked services, which is really freaking exciting. All right. Now, if you want to do some other crazier things, we also have Windows Subsystem for Linux, WSL. So you can actually install like a small version of Windows, Linux on Windows. Wow, my screen's not centered. That's great. Anyway, you do need to have a certain build level and those types of things. So there are some complications that you do need to look into. So if we actually look at my computer, I have an update to version 1909 that I should do, which would help. I from what I can tell, I should be at the proper, oh, you guys can't see the screen anymore. What I can tell, I should be at a high enough version that I should be able to use this, but when I tried to install it, it didn't work out of the box like I was hoping to. Probably should update to version 1909, and that would probably, hopefully, fix some of those problems. But if you're trying to go through that following the steps in the book, which I highly suggest you do, having access to a Linux machine can be extremely helpful. I tried to do it on this computer, and I didn't spend much time on it because, well, I have a Linux server running just behind me. So here you can see I'm on my server, and one of the great things I used this for was a DD command the other day. I was trying to copy something bit for bit using, something bit for bit. I needed bit for bit copying. It was kind of a pain. So couldn't do it. There wasn't a great way to do it on Windows that I knew how to, but I knew DD would do it on Linux. So I hopped onto my SSH here onto my Linux server, and I did it there. I think I could have probably done it in this WSL if I would have had access to it, but I didn't have access. I didn't have it set up at that point, and I still don't have it set up at this point. All right, this is not going to be a complete full-blown install of Linux, and there are a few different Linux versions that you can install. That is really your choice is what it comes down to. But there are a lot of packages, and I believe the package installer, the apt-get, is actually one of those things that is available. So that is kind of exciting that you can still install other things if you need other capabilities. I have no clue how much hard drive space this is going to take up. That was something I was actually going to look into, and I was really interested to try and install it and see what it did. But I'm really limited right now on my main hard drive, so I was a little worried about that. So something to just keep in your mind. Now, to go along with those BAT files, especially if you want to do something and you want to keep them running consistently. Now, this isn't something, a BAT file is not something you're going to want to run daily, or not daily, minutely, right? So it's something you want to run daily, maybe weekly, depending on your setup, all right? So that is something that you do want to think about. So we can schedule tasks using Windows built-in Task Scheduler. So if you search for tasks, T-A-S-K-S, in the Start menu or Task Scheduler, you can go ahead and hit Enter, and that will bring up Windows Task Scheduler for you. So this is where you can come to schedule tasks of your own. And there are two different types of tasks. There are basic tasks, which are designed to be run using the current user's account and to support a single triggering event or time. So only one thing is going to trigger this from happening. So like logging on, logging off, specific time of day, those types of things. You also have tasks, not basic tasks, just task. And this can be run using any specified user account and can be configured to run whether or not the user is logged in, which is kind of exciting. Because again, you might not be logged in, but you still want to back up your computer at a certain time. So those types of things. If we go ahead, and again, you guys can't see my screen. Let me go back to that. So here we have Task Scheduler. So again, got there by searching for tasks, T-A-S-K-S, or Task Scheduler in the Start menu. But if we go ahead and click on Task Scheduler Library, you will see that I actually have a whole bunch of tasks up here, none of which I have created. I will be actually in the near future adding my backup script to back up my photos and whatnot to my server sitting just over there somewhere. Just to make my life easier instead of me having to constantly copy things. And maybe once a week, or if I'm really feeling crazy every day, I will go ahead and throw that off to that point. These are again designed to run without user interaction. So you don't want to have it making you go, do you want to copy this? No, you want this to be a just runs type of thing. So that is one thing you do want to be aware of. So if we go ahead, we can create a basic tasks. So we could call this backup. And I can go ahead and hit next. Here you can see when you can make this start, and a specific event is triggered. We're just going to go with daily. And now it's going, how often you want to do it? One day, that's fine. Whatever time it is you want to pick. When do you want to start it? Probably today's a good day. Probably 4:11 is not the best time to do this, but that's fine. My action, and you can send an email, which is starting to be outdated. Display a message, again, outdated. Our purpose here, start a program. So I can go ahead and browse to I can go ahead and browse to my, my media drive. There we go. And then I have my scripts folder here. And then here I could be like, okay, let's run that backup one, open. If I need to add any arguments to it, which in this case I do not, and then I can go ahead and hit next, and then I can just go ahead and hit finish. And every day now at 4:11 p.m. that task would run. So it's a very simple thing to do. Doesn't take that much time, but it makes your life nice and simpler to automate things. So BAT files are great for automating simple things. Task Scheduler is great for using those BAT files to automate it so it runs every day, week, month, whatever that option is that you want, or every time you log on. Again, it could be something like, all right, every time I log on, copy these files from the file space to something else to make everyone's life a little bit easier. All right, guys, that's all I got. Have a good one.